Welcome. Hello, everyone. How are you? Thank you for being here. It is another edition of Mysterious Forces Live right here on YouTube. It is Saturday, March 2nd, 2019. I hope your March is starting off well. I know that mine is. I had a show last night with Hot Rock Super Joint, which is off the hook if you did not see it or you have not seen it yet. That's both the same thing, isn't it? Go check it out. I swear I haven't been partaking. Hot Rock Super Joint was so funny. I'm going to tell you, I'm one of those people. I've worked in professional comedy, and I've been around a lot of comedians. And I am one of those people where I can think that something is really, really funny, whether it's a movie or a stand-up routine or whatever. And I can think it's really funny and amusing and not laugh out loud. I'm just one of those people. It's rare for me to laugh out loud. If someone has really gotten to me if I do that. And I laughed so hard last night while he was on the show that I cried. And I'm not lying. And then I even thought that was, kind of unusual for me personally. And I went back and I watched the show again, and I laughed even more. And I cried again laughing when I went back. So we got to touch on some of the comedy roots that we've tried to keep in the show a little bit. That, we have some heavy-handed shows with some heavy topics, and then we have some more lighthearted material. So I like that diversity, and I hope you do too, and I hope that that's part of the reason why you keep coming back. Tonight, we're going to totally shift gears, and we're going to have Sabrina Campbell on. She's a psychic medium, and as most of you know, I'm pretty science-based, although I do personally believe that there is a quote-unquote metaphysical underpinning to our universe. I use that term because I really don't subscribe to any particular religious belief. I kind of pick and choose information where I find that it's relevant or logical and reasonable, and kind of incorporate that into my own belief system. But I wouldn't say that I'm a Buddhist or a Wiccan or anything like that. That would be going too far. I'm not an adherent of any school of religion or magic practice, for that matter. And so I'm very picky about, and I don't mean this in a pejorative way at all tonight, the woo-woo people, the more metaphysical people, the New Age people. I'm very picky about who comes on the show. I don't let just anyone come on here and spew what I consider sometimes to be nonsense. Not always, but sometimes. So I try to vet my guests. And I have certainly vetted tonight's guest. And her and I chat some on social media. And we have mutual friends in common. And she's been on Fascination Street. She's been on Explaining Esoterica. And so I feel like we kind of know each other a little bit that way, but tonight we're going to have an organic conversation right here for all of you to see, and we'll learn about Sabrina, her abilities, and we'll dig into whatever issues come up during the conversation. So put your seatbelt on. This is going to be a good one. Sabrina, welcome to the show.
Woohoo! Thank you, Natasha. Thank you very much. I'm so happy to be here.
Is it cold up there? I know that you're just north of Toronto in Ontario. What's the temp up there tonight?
Cold. It's cold. I don't know Fahrenheit, but Celsius, it is like -10 right now.
Oh, wow.
I think that's even negative for you guys. I'm not sure. I don't remember.
-10 would be like 22 degrees Fahrenheit, I believe.
22. Yeah. So
I'm sure someone will correct me in the chat room if I'm wrong. That we can always count on the internet for people to correct you. And so and it kind of gets the same way here because I live north of Phoenix up in the high desert. And when it gets above 100, in some senses, it doesn't matter whether it's 100 degrees, 110, or 118. It all kind of feels the same after about 100. So,
Yep.
you know, and I think it's that way when it gets cold as well. After it gets so cold, it's just like, it's just a number at that point.
Yes, it is. And you know what happened a couple of days ago? Our furnace broke, well, just shut down. It didn't break, but it shut down in the middle of the night. So we were actually sleeping with no heat, and it was cold in the house. So I was happy to get that puppy working afterwards.
I'll bet.
Yeah.
All right, so let's jump into the topic. I know that you have a page on Facebook called Sixth Sensibilities with Sabrina Campbell. And what's the function of the Facebook page? Is that a community? What's that all about?
It's a business page, and I'm hoping to make it a community at some point. I love affecting people. So the things that I put on my page are, if they're not, I don't like just throwing positivity out there if it's something where it needs to be neutral or something that needs to be addressed honestly. But what I don't like to do is to have the people who are looking at me, who I am on a journey as well, but through my journey, I've been learning very, very deep lessons. And so when I do my quotes, you know, like those memes everybody picks out, I'm always so careful to make sure that they're like, you know, I'm not careful that I don't offend anybody. I'm more careful that it's what I say, what I mean, you know, and something for the betterment of people and not for the, you know, not betterment, the opposite. So I enjoy this page. I enjoy everything about what I'm doing right now. The only thing that I'm trying to figure out is like time schedules and such, like my personal time. So, but I love this stuff. So
yeah, I do too. I keep it pretty straight on my Mysterious Forces live page because that's all about the show. But on my personal Facebook page, I just regurgitate typical social media garbage like a lot of other people. but I have a good time, and I like expressing myself, so it's okay.
Good for you.
Yeah.
I love it.
So tell us a little bit about your psychic medium abilities, how you first sensed that you had this ability, and how all this started for you. How'd you get started?
Well, I actually got started with animal communication. So it seemed to turn out that I rode horses when I was younger. Well, I still ride them, but I'm really rode them heavily when I was younger. And it always seemed to turn out that I got the horses that needed work, you know, that had like, I say emotional issues. And so it was kind of the same for me. I also had emotional issues. So the horses and I seemed to get each other really easily. And from there, I figured everybody spoke to their dogs and cats and horses like I did. I didn't know that it wasn't an open two-sided conversation going on with the person and the animal. And then I started to realize that it wasn't a two-sided conversation for most people. And I felt really weird because I started to get made fun of for talking to my animals like they're people. And then, you know, that kind of led its way into the mediumship, which is the speaking to people who have passed. And the messages that I started getting, even when I first started doing the whole mediumship thing, those messages were like life-changing. And it's not like I have that kind of knowledge or experience per se. I have had many experiences in life, but these were deeper than the experiences I had. And so I would just say things and then people would hear it and things would start to change in their lives. And I was fortunate enough that they would tell me that things were changing, right? So I could hear and get validation, and then started to put two and two together and realize, wait a minute, there's something deeper here. So, and I don't know if you've ever had that moment where you kind of feel like, you know, somebody's going to call you or reach out to you.
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Right. And you can't deny those moments, or something like you say it out loud and then the person right beside you is like, I was just saying that in my head. So I've recognized that telepathy and that's psychic ability. So psychic, as I understand it, is talking from soul to soul. So, like sometimes we can have guides. It's kind of a fancy way to say energy, like beings that are made of energy that help us. We can make them look any way we want to. If they want to look like a Native American, then I can see it as a Native American, but somebody else can see it as somebody different or something different. So it's really how we choose to see things. But yeah, it was just a really organic and natural journey. And it was really funny because the animals showed me the mediumship abilities. Somehow they led me that direction. The mediumship showed me the psychic abilities. The psychic abilities showed me the angel communication, which is large energy masses. And it just kind of like each one led me into the next. And because it was so natural, it came really quickly, I feel, and positively strong. So,
wow, were there other women in your family lineage that had these kinds of abilities? Did you feel like this was a familial trait that was passed down, or did you just somehow you were different and realize this about yourself?
that's a good question. So, I know that everybody has these abilities. It's whether or not we choose to listen to that inner voice, that very first inner voice. We call that our intuition. It's also our connection to everything. That is intuition, the connection to everything. And then everything gives you an idea of which direction to go in. So, excuse me. So I don't know if I would say stuff like this is a genetic thing. You know what I mean? Because maybe this life is about me learning how to let go of beliefs. So therefore I might step away from the psychic ability or the mediumship ability in this life. And then in the next, it's about gathering information and exercising the abilities. So I really think it's something that's special to everybody. And I was fortunate enough to acknowledge that specialness.
No, that's cool. So I've had what I consider to be metaphysical or psychic experiences. They were kind of limited, and they were under peculiar circumstances. So I wouldn't say that it's an ability that I carry with me innately, that I use all the time. It was these things happen in an uncontrolled fashion. But I know that I had communications, or I perceived information that it's weird because when these thoughts and ideas come into your mind, you can tell that they are not originating from your own mind, that they are coming from somewhere else. And you can, at least I could differentiate that. So and for lack of a better term, are your communications like audio only, or that direct osmosis of information or interpretation? Or do you see visions? Do you see beings? Do you see auras? Is there any other, or I guess the big question is, are any of your other senses involved or integrated into this ability?
Well, and again, another great question. So this is, it's really hard to explain how fortunate I think I am. And also because I have all of them, all of the senses. I can taste, I can smell, I can hear, I can speak, I can feel sometimes. There's the feeling one is a little bit, that's a new ability. I'm also starting to see now more things outside of my head, like, so I can start to see flashes in the corners of my eye. And as soon as I look, it's gone immediately, but it was a bright, bright, bright flash. So, but I don't put limits on that. I'm not somebody who says, oh, I can only hear. You'll never hear me say that unless I just say it like this. Like I don't say that because I just don't agree with limits. I think limits is what's been shutting us down for thousands of years. Like we just decided to listen to one person, and that one person said, hey, you're not allowed to be limitless. And everybody said, okay. And I was the one in the background probably getting whipped and beaten because I was like, no. So I use them all, and I'm happy about that. It's sometimes overwhelming, but I like it. I really do.
Oh no, that's cool. So I want to dig into some of these subtopics individually, and I am one of those people that am deeply sensitive to my personal connection with animals and overall humanity's connection to animals. And I'm wondering what your impression is from having had these kinds of contacts with animals. And I saw, and I'm not even going to attempt to accurately quote this, but I saw a meme a while back that said something akin to, if animals could speak, humanity would weep. And I can't help but feel that deeply, deeply in my soul. I'm very sensitive about animals. What have you learned from this deeper connection with animals? What do you think the animal kingdom, not that you're a representative of the animal kingdom, obviously, but if you could sum up in your own experience, what perhaps animals would want us to know or want us to realize, what do you think that is?
That it has always been to me that they are here to experience things with us, and that love, it's sometimes a cheesy thing to say, but love is so valuable. It's invaluable, and it is their main line of communication. And I mean, I don't know, I'm sure you have, where you look into your dog's eyes and your eyes get watery, and you know, you can feel that warmth, and it almost feels like liquid dripping down your body, warm liquid. And then shortly after, goosebumps follow. And that is love. That is love, opens you up and raises your vibrations and your frequency so that you can communicate with everything. So love is the key. But there's also other emotions, and we're all allowed to have those other emotions. But they want us to know that until we as humanity can figure out how to love unabashedly, unconditionally, unjudgmentally, we are going to continue in this spot of hurt. And they are showing us by, like, sometimes they take on their caregivers' diseases. They do many things to help us, and we're not even recognizing this because we're so used to being closed off from what we're not understanding, or what we've never been allowed the time to discover. So they really want us to love, and with the love comes the opening up of our shells. And when we open up our shells, then we can start to really experience. And again, when we get to this point, there won't be things like lying. You can't lie when you're telepathically involved with somebody. There's no falsities anymore. So it's just open and honest and loving.
Oh no, that's cool. So between yourself and an animal, or perhaps an animal and a client or someone that you're working with, what's some of the most interesting messages that you have relayed between an animal and their caregiver?
Some very interesting things. Some things, like one of there was a dog I was talking to, and the dog told the lady, his caregiver, to stop eating Cheetos. It made me chuckle out loud, and I was like, I'm sorry, but I have to say it verbatim because it's just too funny. So she was like, oh my God, he's so right. I have to stop eating Cheetos. Oh, that was one of them. And then the other one, like the most profound one, was I had a client, have a client that is struggling through quite a bit of mental illness. And their horse, so horses, people who are attracted to horses are usually people who have emotional needs. They have to figure stuff out. Horses are like the huge, massive representative of the emotions. Okay. So, and it works because a horse is a prey animal, right? So they move from energy like water. So if you're having a bad day and you have that angry energy all around you, and then you just make eye contact with a horse, it's like a slap in the face for them. And it's so much energy. And this one horse was so cheeky. And the lady was like, I don't know what he's going through. I don't know why he's doing this. He's trying to put me on the ground all the time while I'm riding him. And And so I had a chit chat with him, and he said, you know, like, she gets on me and she disappears. And who's there? I'm carrying a lump. And I was kind of like, well, that's a little insensitive. And he says, no, it's not insensitive when that lump could hinder you if you had to get away from something. And it was such an invaluable, like, priceless. I've never heard of something being said that way. And then it was like, now I use that line with people who are dealing with horses with issues, or the people think their horses have issues, like, well, are you there when you're riding the horse? Because maybe you're just a lump and you're hindering them. Thank you, horse, for that line. I appreciate it.
That's funny. So
yeah,
this is a bit of a stereotypical model that I'm about to toss out, but I think that there is some relevance to it. And I know that those of us who are cat owners and cat lovers, I like cats and dogs. But everyone who's familiar with cats knows that cats seem to be highly sensitive to stimulus that we are not consciously aware of. That cats, tend to see things, hear things, and respond to things that we just are not perceiving. And oftentimes dogs as well. I think it depends on the dogs, but if I can generalize a bit, I think that it's more cats that seem more tuned into that other dimension, or maybe there's just different ways that cats and dogs express or let us know that they're having that connection. Do animals have a rich inner life, or maybe even a kind of a psychic life that's independent from humanity that we don't know about? Are they having some kind of interactions with the world around us that maybe that we don't even understand?
absolutely. Absolutely. They are so interconnected. That's the sentient, right? Like the ultimate knowing and the ultimate connection, the ultimate openness. Cats, I call them the gatekeepers between worlds, or between realms, between dimensions, however you want to say it. Dogs, horses, chickens, everything can see just as well as cats can see, but cats almost not judge, but they almost, they check the tick marks, like, okay, have you done this in this life? Have you done this in this life? Have you done this in this life? Okay, pass, come on through. And, like, cats they are incredibly open, and in the sense of, and powerful. Little cats are incredibly powerful with energy. So yeah, it's like they do the allowing or the non-allowing. They don't ever say no to somebody coming through to the other realm, like somebody who passes and then they're coming through to, the behind the veil, or somebody who is living and is psychically moving behind the veil. The cats are always lining you up, checking you out. You know how when cats walk around the house and they're always kind of looking at you like, I don't know, dude. I don't know. Like, they do that so well. So they do that in the spiritual, at the veil. It's almost like they'll pull it aside if they let you in, and they won't if they don't, But
Right.
and
No, go ahead.
well, the conversations that they have psychically are incredibly impressive. I have a story about taking care of my girlfriend's horse. Dog ran away. We had just gotten him back. My mom has his mom, and she had a litter of puppies. They're show dogs, and this person had taken the dog on. Well, he had kept running away, so we got him back again. And so then he took off on us. And of course, it was Christmas Eve. So I went over and I fed my girlfriend's horses, and the horses were just kind of looking off in the distance at this barking dog. It wasn't my dog barking, but a barking dog. And I was like, what are you ladies doing? And the one horse that I rode her, we were very close with each other. And of course, she was a sensitive horse. So, like, not everybody could ride her. It took a certain type of person. But every time I would speak, she'd come over to me and cuddle with me and nuzzle, and we'd have a little, pet session. But she wouldn't even move from her position. She was just staring off into the distance. So then I thought to myself, you know what? I'm going to check the farm beside us. And as I was on my way home from feeding the horses for Christmas, I went to the neighbor's farm from this one person's house, and there's my dog in the barn. And I believe that there was I don't believe, I know there was a conversation going between my dog and them, and they were like, well, we know who you're looking for. We have her here with us. And because they're able to send even scent messages. So the horses can send my smell to him and say, do you recognize this smell? And he'll be like, yes. So then when I pulled into the driveway, he came out of where he was hiding and was standing there. Now, dogs are like children. Once they get lost, they disconnect and get even more lost. It's not like they find their way home. They're lucky if they find their way home, because they're like, oh my, where am I? Even though he was literally, as the crow flies, maybe 1,000 feet away from my house.
Oh, wow.
Right? But he was lost. He spent the whole night in that barn because he didn't know where he was. He didn't know where to go. So the horse was like, well, listen, there's somebody over there. They say they know you. It's a dog. I think you're looking for that. I see a picture of a dog in your head. So there he is. And then he says, yay. And then I pull in the driveway and he comes running out. So it was like, thank you, animal ability. That is just like blessed. I'm so appreciative.
Oh no, that's pretty incredible. I like that.
Yeah.
Moving on from the animal topic and the connection with animal, and moving into your connection with people, qualitatively speaking. Now, we chatted for a few minutes before the show started, but none of this is rehearsed or scripted, obviously. I think anyone who knows me and knows this show knows that isn't the case. But we were talking about, some of your communications and your abilities are kind of atypical from what some people might think of in terms of psychic mediumship. Do you, for the audience, I know that you kind of answered this question for me, but do you have a connection with deceased people and their relatives? Do you do that kind of work, or are your abilities more focused in other areas?
Well, I can talk to people who have passed. I have focus everywhere, though. But yes, I absolutely do talk to people who have passed. I'm finding it very interesting. You know how you said the voice, you had experience where you heard a voice and it's a different kind of a thought process, so you understand it's not yours.
Right.
Yeah, and I do that with people. Sometimes I connect with their past people through their, like, psychically. So I'm connecting from my soul to their soul. And when I get to their soul, I can see who it is they want me to talk to. Whereas other times I will see the beings behind them, and not see them, but in my mind's eye, I'm seeing these, it's not detailed quite yet, but I can see that there's somebody, maybe 2, 3 people behind there, like I can start to see stuff. But I find that everybody, past people, animals, everybody has such deep information for all of us for change. And we need to change. Every single one of us needs to change. It has to happen.
Absolutely. Kind of the other side of the coin, we talked about messages from animals. What are some of the more interesting messages that you have passed between someone who's deceased and a relative, or someone who's needing to know about this person who needs some consolation?
Well, one of the sessions I did, the lady had spoken to quite a few different psychics and psychic mediums and wasn't able to get the information that she wanted. So I don't know why. Well, I do know why, but it's a deep conversation right there. But anyways, I was lucky enough to what she was looking for, and what she was looking for was for an apology. And the apology had come before the relative had passed. So it was really hard for her to let go of a lot of the stuff that had happened in her childhood in order to move forward. And so for some reason, I was able to get just such bang on information, and I was so happy about that. And then he first alluded to an apology, and then he outright said one afterwards that, he knew that this was being waited on for many, many years. And the question was, well, why didn't you tell the other psychics? You know, why couldn't I find out from that? Normally, I don't go on with those questions because what's the point, right? You're getting it. Why do you need to know where it comes from? But this was important to her, and he was ready to tell her that, you know, there's not enough genuine people anymore. And not that there's not many of them and that a lot of people are ingenuine. What he meant is that a lot of people aren't rooted. They're not willing to have a feeling, express a feeling, and then understand the feeling and then let it go. We can't just plug a feeling and pat it down and think that it's going to go away. It won't. It'll get bigger and bigger and uglier. So he said he wanted somebody with depth that could honestly show her his true feelings about his apology. And I mean, that one blew me away. I don't usually cry from feelings. Usually I cry because it's like when you're conscious of everything going around you, your vibration raises, and then because it's so high, it makes tears come to my eyes, because love is very powerful. That vibration is love. And I'm talking about that feeling when you're looking in your dog's eye and your eyes get all watery because you love them. Well, that's what happens, right? But this time I was crying for absolute emotional release. And she was like, man, this was the best session I have ever had. I was like, good for you. Like, I'm so happy he chose to do it, you know, like how long has she been waiting, right? So, I mean, it was profound. It was one of the best things that I've ever been privy to be a part of.
That's awesome. I like you recounting that. That resonates for me. I am going to switch gears just a little bit because a lot of people are interested in this conversation and we have questions from the chat room. So I'm going to fire a few your way so that we can satisfy the audience.
Sure.
Someone was wondering what your blood type is. And of course, that's medical information. If you don't want to share that online with the whole world, I get it. So
that's interesting.
That is.
Well, I don't know. Do you need it? I'm O positive. I don't know if that's anything.
I don't know. I wonder if that person is thinking that there's some kind of genetic connection between these types of abilities, or I don't know. I can imagine without knowing that might be the basis of the question.
I think so. I think you're on that.
Yeah. Let's see. Sherry, question number 1. Do you feel that your gift is possible through shared consciousness, like a web or a different type of energy? And if it is a different type, where do you think that energy comes from?
Interesting.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah. Wow, I've never pictured it in a shape or something. Like how I get it, I know that it's infinite, where I get not my energy from, but where I get the energy that I pull into me from. It's definitely from it's that cloud of everything. Like I call it a cloud. It's a light. It's a whatever you want to see it. It's particles in the air, electromagnetic pulse, whatever you want to call it. It's a something, but it's an unseen something. And I get it, I think, really easily. So I'm stuck on that web. I keep on picturing the web. I'm like, wow, is it like a web? How is it done?
That's an interesting concept. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. I would like to hear more about that concept, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. It's something to think about. There was another question. Do you use a physical medium for your focus, like cards or tea leaves?
I can. I use cards. I've used oracle cards before. I've done tarot cards as well. But it comes to me anyways, so I don't need it. If I want it as like a starter, like a Kickstarter, then I think it's what I use. I haven't done the tea leaves, although there's intuitive group that I go to often, and they have so many different things that they allow you to do, like tea leaf reading and tarot card courses and such. So I have access to learn many things, but no, I use me mostly.
Oh, cool. No, very good. UFO Gandalf, I'm glad to see you in the house.
Hey,
And I'm
Dex.
glad that you have a wrench. So you are most welcome here. Pat Breeze want to know, are you getting closer to getting land for your business?
Land for it?
Yes, that was the question. Are you any closer to getting land for your business? That is literally the wording.
Well, land is my business.
Oh.
So is air. So is everything beyond that. I think that if we mean, is it taking off? Or if I'm getting like somewhere where I can plant myself in a building or something, I'm going to go with the taking off part. I think that I'm starting to get headway, making headway in my community. And it seems like in small communities that seem to be outreaching and outreaching and outreaching, the business is starting to be seen by people that I'm hoping will see things for the purpose of change, and for the purpose of change entirely. And if it means physical land, well, I do have a spot to put my business. I work out of a few different places. I'm actually working out of different yoga studio, a store in my community. I go to people's houses. They can come to my house. So I'm pretty mobile that way. But yeah, Pat, you're awesome. Thank you for the question. And I hope that I answered it the way you wanted it answered. If not, then let me know.
Yeah, no. I just want to give a shout out. That was Pat Breeze. I see Sasha Baumel again. BB Blog, BB, good to see you. I just like to shout out to these people because I'm always appreciative of them being here. Out of Mind, Pat Kearney, who is family to me. Amanda Rose Chavison, hello, glad to see you. The Pegasus Club. Let's see. Join this side. That's interesting. I'm not familiar with that name. Anyway, I just want to say hello. I know CW Chanter was in the chat room last night, and he's not here tonight. And no, he's not chopped liver. I see. No, that's UFO Gandalf. Of course, the professor's in the house. Vanessa Nassif, hello, welcome. I just like getting shout outs because I appreciate my audience.
Yeah.
Let's see. Let's say, oh yes. I have my the professors also sending me messages. Yes, I'll remember to do that. So I will do that. Okay, so I just wanted to check in with the chat room, say hello to all the peeps there, and get any questions out that they had. Let's get back into some of the meat of the topic. Do you consider this psychic medium ability to be something different than what is considered to be remote viewing? Or do you think these are the same abilities with different labels from different people?
Again, you're really good at these questions, Natasha. These are awesome. So I think that it's an umbrella of all the same thing. I do believe, like, I can do remote viewing. I can go different places. And I mean, like, sometimes I go there with no proof. So what I mean is I go there, I see and experience a moment. I'll usually do it with somebody I trust around, just so that I have somebody I can voice to. And then, like, a lot of the times, for some reason, I go to Mongolia a lot and I sit there and I look at things, but that's not provable, right? So it's not like I'm sitting there going there for proof. Now, the provable stuff I've done is amazing because I've been to a friend's place halfway across the world while they were making coffee, and I smelled the coffee and I was like, what is that smell? They're like, it's cappuccino. I was like, well, it smells like coffee, but it's really, really good. So, yeah, I think it's all kind of the same thing. It's, again, if you're going to put limits on it, then it'll only come out in certain ways. But if you choose not to put limits on it, the possibilities are endless.
That's very well said. Have you had experiences in looking through time or getting a sensibility about either, obviously, events from the past, which seem to be kind of common for psychic mediums, but what about the future? Does time or your vision into the past or the future, does that become elastic when you're in that state of mind?
Yes, for me, it does. And again, it's those limits. I just do not put them on there. I'm in the past, then I experience that moment fully. If it's longer than a moment, that's fantastic. Usually right now, because I'm not building on that skill, it's momentary, but I love it. And I do get things from the future. And I'm always warned by my guide that whenever we see things in the future, it's not the solid future. It's one possibility of what could happen. So it's kind of like, if I see it, then it's something I should take heed of, but it's not something per se that I have to act immediately on. So it's like not a warning, but like letting me know what the next chapter is before I get to it, kind of thing. So yes, it is elastic in my opinion, and it is for me as well. And it's one of those things that you have to really have somebody, well, I do. I have to have somebody that I can practice that stuff with, right? So
Right.
I think if I were able to find somebody like that, then I could do the forward stuff way more and the backward stuff way more. But the stuff that I do get for the future is definitely profound stuff, and it's usually stuff that's it's like wrongs are being righted. But many people can see those, the way that it's being righted, as not the way it's being meant. So, well, do you want me to go into information about like one of the sighting or the visions I get? Or
Absolutely, please do. Yes. No, the more detail, the better.
Okay, so that's awesome. So what I see consistently right now is the towers, internet towers blowing up. And it's just internet towers. It's not hydro, it's not phone lines, it's internet only. And then I see, so when I see these visions, I try very hard to stay in them when they're those kinds of visions, because that could be seen as something terrible, right? And I could scare the poop out of so many people just by saying that. So I ask questions while I'm in that. And so I asked, and this took months and months for me to bring together all of the information, because I only get tidbits of information. So it took me months to find out that this whole system's going down because it's so flawed that the innocent are getting proven guilty, even though it's not really proven. But because the internet's so sour right now, everything is kind of lying to make the good look bad and the bad look good, right? So they don't want this. Those who are trying to help us, they don't want that. They want copacetic. They want it to work in a fluid fashion. They want this earth to be beautifully abundant and understood, respected, and many other things. So, but what they show me is so interesting, because they show me internet again, but the technology almost looks organic. Like, like they show it to me like watery gel, and in the watery gel are these organisms. And because it's so, now this isn't exactly what it is. Again, they have to give me a reference that's within my mind in order for me to understand it and give it to people in the proper sense. It's like they make it so advanced that there's just no way that a hacker could hack it. There's no way that, somebody who's trying to get pictures of people they shouldn't be getting pictures of, there's no way they can do that. And it's going to be so honest. And that's also a lot of what's going to happen with this huge shift that we're going through within the next 2 years. People are going to become so telepathic that, again, there's going to be no ability to lie. So it's kind of a perfect timing. I'm feeling like this internet thing is going to happen within 10 years, but I feel within 2 to 5 years. And I had spoken to a friend, and he had said that he saw electromagnetic pulses blowing out those towers. So I found that interesting.
I have to admit, what came to my mind when you said that, I am thinking about this conversion to 5G and the
Yes.
controversy associated with it.
Yep. Yeah, and you have to be strong intuitive, because the 5G is going to start taking intuition right out, just like the music and the hertz that they use for the music, right? Like, it's for you to, like, Nazi warfare, subliminal stuff, right?
Right.
And they're able to make us just operate and be sheep, because that's what they want. And that's also what the 5G is going to start doing. It's going to take intuition away. It's going to take our abilities to connect away, because they don't want us to connect, because patriotism or patriarchal leadership doesn't want to be taken down. So it's this rather interesting ebb and flow of careful eggshell stepping to get through this situation, this shift.
Do you think that we're moving into an age of the feminine, where the feminine energy is going to be taking prominence, and that perhaps the traditional patriarchal male energy that has been guiding civilizations with such a heavy hand for so long, do you think that patriarchal hold, I actually can't believe I said that, is slipping, and that is what's feeding a lot of the fear, and as well as multiculturalism and diversity, where people, and let's face it, and this is not political, I'm talking sociologically, that white people demographically are going to become a minority, and the world is becoming more diversified. And and mainly here in America, but mainly in other Western civilizations, where the white privilege is starting to be recognized for what it is and what it has been. And whites, in my opinion, are afraid that when people of other races have more influence over society than what Caucasians have had traditionally, that perhaps Caucasians will get treated as badly as Caucasians have treated other minorities. And I wonder if the bigger picture beyond that is that men fear of oppression by women in the exact same way that they have objectified and oppressed women for millennia. Do you think that that's kind of that bigger age of Aquarius, so to speak, factor that's going on?
Hugely, massively. But the difference is that women, and the reality is that not women, but the matriarchal society, or the matriarchal leadership anyways, is not about power. It's not about overtaking people and forcing them to understand something. It's about divvying up the responsibility. It's about caring for your lowest members, and humbling your highest ones. And it's really about balance, balance, balance. Right now I'm getting goosebumps everywhere on my body, so this is an important point tonight. It's about balance. So even like the whole race thing, it's not going to happen where it's going to go the other way, because the matriarchal balance is going to bring that understanding with it. The thing is that we'll say the patriarchal side, so men, have been so squished for they've been oppressed. No matter what history thinks and says of men, men have not been able to feel feelings for thousands of years. How is that okay? How is that okay? And this is what it's done to us as people. It's brought men where they've disconnected from themselves, from society, from their partners, unable to share feelings, because if they do, they're not a man. But really, in actuality, that is a man. It's the balance of the feminine and the masculine in every single being. And even if the balance means there's a little bit more feminine than there is masculine, who cares? That's what it is. Right. And we accept it. and we divvy up the responsibility, and we work on raising the people around us as a community rather than, oh, that's your kid, you take care of it. You're responsible for your kid's bad behavior and I don't like it. So I don't care. What I care about is that my child is having a moment right now. He's using his voice. He's saying something. Yeah, it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable for me. But if we weren't judging each other in this moment, that child would be allowed to say what he wanted without the big hoo-ha. He would be able to say, I don't like being told I'm not allowed to cry when I feel upset. Then I hear you, and I won't tell you you're not allowed to cry when you feel upset. And this is what needs to happen. And that's what's going to happen with the matriarchal, because we have been in patriarchal now for a few thousand years. It's not working, right? We tried it. It's not working. So now we have to move beyond fear. I mean, how many women go into the role of motherhood knowing nothing except like what they're hearing, no experiences, but they have a feeling and a hearing, and yet they blow motherhood out of the water. Right. They're like amazing. And it's because they have roots, they have support behind them, they have the ability to feel and the freedom to do any of these things at any point. So, nobody ever looks at a girl and says, oh, come on, you're too much of a girl to cry, and correct. So I feel like this is also a lot of the messages that I'm getting. To tell you the truth, Natasha, I am getting messages for everybody that the feeling part is the most important part right now. It's not about letting go. It is about letting go, but it's not initially about letting go of feelings. Initially, it is about experiencing them, feeling them, putting them into a compartment that you can go to later as experience, help, and knowledge. So that trauma doesn't take over our brains, our bodies, our everything, because trauma causes, or anxiety, it all causes these things that we're so afraid of. So it's this perpetual mess that I feel we're going to be stepping out of that once this shift it's already taken hold, but once it really does go over to the matriarchal side. So I'm excited for it all. I mean, I'm fine living in this world right now, and even years ago, I'm a very strong person. So I'm fine with that. But I know that a lot of people are uber sensitive, and it's too much and especially for men. I keep saying this, like, it's so hard. They're going from a point where they're not allowed to feel very quickly to a point where people are encouraging them to feel. And I feel from the men that they feel like it's a joke or a trick, right. Like, wait, I'm allowed to cry now? So if I cry, are you going to pick on me? So, oh, I don't know. No, this can't be good, or this can't be right, or whatever. Right. So yeah, I can't wait for that matriarchal, because it's not like true feminism isn't about insulting men. True feminism is about embracing the men's strengths and women embracing their strengths, and then men embracing women's strengths. That's what true feminism, that word, feminism. There we go. That's what it is. The true is, right? But I mean, then there's many people have perceived it in a different fashion lately, but so this is what it's going to be. It's going to be this true feminism where we can be ourselves and be supported for it. I mean, we'll also be called out when things are going a little too far, like, not that is a judgment, but if you're crying for 6 days over spilled milk, it's okay. Right. The milk, the milk has re-fed the ground it spilled on. It's all good.
No, absolutely. Do you think that some of this effect, and not while you were speaking, this question came to mind. These stereotyped feeling or thoughts about feelings, and the perception of people expressing their feelings, and we're in an age where people can surely express their feelings and reach many more people than ever before because of social media. But at the same time, I think we're having this kind of hangover from technology, from logic and reason and left brain operation which requires us to keep all of these balls in the air while we live our modern life, right? You've got to keep your career going. You've got to pay your bills. You've got to nurture and take care of your family. You've got to connect with your friends. Hopefully you're connecting on some level with your community and being involved in your community, whatever that means, whether that means politics or volunteer work. There's a whole spectrum there on being involved in your community. And then there's that larger picture of being connected to the earth and to nature. And, you know, we're just severed from that connection, those connections of emotion and feeling. And actually, you know, people, the current stereotype is that emotional people, feeling people, sensitive people are a problem, and that you know, that we don't have time and we don't have room for people's feelings because there's too much quote unquote business to take care of in our hectic modern world, where really we're just chasing our tails, right? We're just keeping ourselves busy with all this minutia while our lives tick away, and perhaps real deep meaning might escape some of us because we're too wrapped up in this this game that has been set up, that is modern society. So do you think that because humanity overall is kind of so stubborn, and that we're having this kind of negative hangover of you know, I feel like I'm making sense on one hand. I also feel like I've talked myself into a corner and not making sense in another.
No, I totally get
that. You know, we've got this conflict in society. And once again, I don't even do politics on this show, and I have to say that a lot. But you've got a lot of people saying your feelings don't count. We don't care about your feelings. We need this. And, you know, you could say that about the economy or whatever. But we are all so much more interconnected through social media, and we have access to news, and we have so much more access to suffering and tragedy because we have access to that information. But we also have access to healing and hope and love, should we choose to look for that. But, you know, the voices that are bringing us all the negative information are screaming much more louder than, or much more loudly than, this voice of love and reason and healing. And do you think that's what's behind this kind of shakeup, and that we're in the middle of this transition from the masculine into the feminine, and this will have to work itself out over time? But I don't know. I guess I'm asking you if you agree with that model. I don't know. I'm kind of intuitively feeling this right now as well. And I'm trying to kind of explain something that's kind of an epiphany to me live right now in this moment, but perhaps not expressing myself in the best way. So I want to apologize to you in the audience if that kind of seemed circular, but that was all kind of coming to me as you were saying that. And I'm wanting your impression from that.
Well, you were supposed to get that there, because that is exactly what's going on. Now, I always talk about we have choice over everything. Even when we think we don't have a choice, we do have a choice. We've chosen to think we don't have a choice, and that's a choice as well, right? Choosing to do nothing is a choice. So everything is a choice. So what I was in a hole, like an emotional hole, financial hole, quite a few things hole. My son was born with 15 holes in his heart. We had to have that fixed when he was 6 months old. Plus he had his head, his actual skull was taken apart and put back together. So among other surgeries, but those were the major ones. So I was in this hole, and I focused on, literally my line was, no, I can't do that. I'm broke. I'm poor. I can't do that. And I kept on saying this and saying this. And finally, I had a really good friend come to me and say, you know, you're only ever going to be broke and poor if that's all you talk about. Yeah, I think you're right there. So what it did is that conversation gave me the understanding that I'm choosing to look at the negative aspect of what's going on. That is my choice. I am choosing to have a negative outlook. That is my choice. So we have to respond. We have to responsibly look at things in the sense that if you are feeling like you're getting a heated palpitation in your chest, that's negative. And we don't need to go down that route. We don't need to respond to that. Yes, we see it. And we know that that exists in the world. We can't deny that it exists. But what we don't need to do is give it power by focusing on it. And instead, give the positive power and focus on that. You know, there's so many good things that have been happening in the world, even though we don't know about them, and we won't know about them because most good things are not publicized. So we have a choice in what we choose to focus on. And the information that I have been giving is all about choice. Recognizing that every single thing we do is our choice. We do, not that happens to us, but that we do. That is 100% our choice. So yes, we can either choose to look at the healing aspect of the internet and positively interact with those who refuse to allow negativity to course through any part of their veins, their words, their eyes, any of that. Or you can hang around with the people who would rather say, look at how, you know, douchebaggery this person is. Look what they're doing to the world. Look at that, you know, and it could be political. It could be at your work. It could be in your neighborhood. It's who you're choosing to focus on and what you're choosing to focus on. So I think that it also kind of shows me, and this is not like, again, it's not judgmental, but it shows me the level that humanity is at right now, or the level that a community is at. So when you go into a community and they're all uplifting and they want a new store opens up and they really want it to take hold and they want it to, you know, grow. You see around here anyways, the community comes around and goes to the opening party, goes and tells all their friends and da-da-da-da-da and da-da-da. And so there's this whole positive thrown out there and people thrive off that. And then you've got the other ones where, like, I mean, I'm not going to lie. We just got an axe throwing thing in our town, you know, like where you get to whip the axes and I'm like, that is awesome, because that is a positive way to release negative energy, right?
Right.
So it's like, you know, I'm really good with shooting guns and with targets and such, right?
Okay,
but I'm not,
target shooting and such.
Yeah, but I'm not gonna choose to use this gun to kill something, right?
Right.
I'm gonna kill the hay bale, not a being. So
right.
Because I'm good at something doesn't mean I have to use it for the negative, right? It can be used very much for the positive. So, and gun shooting, again, is something that, just like swearing, it's really good to let go of negative energy. And like I say all the time, I don't feel that swearing is a bad thing. If you did it, you know, in front of somebody who it bothered, well, that's a bad thing, you know, but to do it to let go of negative energy and let it fizzle off and go somewhere else, okay, do it. I mean, the F word is the most productive word for letting go of tension.
I hope so. I must have a lot of tension, because that's probably about either third or sixth word that I say in my day-to-day vocabulary.
Yeah, me too.
That's cool. So
right?
we're a little over an hour, but that's okay, because this has been a fascinating conversation. And before we go, I want you to know that if you have a project that you want to promote, or if you ever want to come back and just have another discussion, you're welcome to come back to this show anytime. All you have to do is say so. And if you don't do that, plan on hearing from me sometime, you know, at a reasonable time in the future. And I'd love to have you back on, because this was fascinating, interesting, and I think you have important messages for people to hear. And if I didn't trust you, if I didn't believe in you in terms of your intentions and your abilities, I wouldn't have you on my show. I can say that to you in all honesty. So thank you for being here, Sabrina Campbell. And your Facebook page is Sixth Sensibilities with Sabrina Campbell. Are you going to be doing any workshops or any other appearances or work that you'd like for people to know about before we go?
To tell you the truth, Natasha, first off, thank you very much for your kind words. I really appreciate it. And thank you for inviting me onto your show. I really appreciate that as well. And I will share the you know what out of this, so people will be watching it soon enough. To tell you the truth about the whole projects and such, I really do fly by the seat of my pants right now, because I'm in the fashion of going with the flow. So if it comes up, I go with it. If it doesn't, then I don't, oddly enough. But as it goes right now, I have a few things on the go, but they're not at the point yet where we're ready to pull people in with it or anything like that. But do stay tuned. Hopefully it'll happen at some point. I'll be able to let everything out of the bag.
All right. Awesome. Thank you so much. And I know that we're going to provide links and other information in the chat room. And I'm looking for that button for, you know what it is. It's the happy music. And there it is. Per the professor. Look at me. I'm serious. I'm serious. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already done so. And if you've liked and subscribed, then share everywhere. This show is picking up steam and it's doing very well, and it's because of you. And I love you and I thank you for being here. I appreciate all of my guests. And once again, I wanted to give a shout out to Fascination Street, Explaining Esoterica, CW Chanter, Occult Priestess, who else? Dark Journalist, you're still doing good work and I'm trying to connect with you. Paranormal Hood, Jiggy, I love you. Pursuing X, of course, I couldn't do all this without Pursuing X. So thank you, Pursuing X. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Like, subscribe, and let's try to do it this time. Let's see, can I get this to go? And